What's going on, troopers? Welcome to the Trooper Transmission. And today we have a returning guest, Mr. Lionheart himself, Travi P, all the way from California. Travis, what's going on, man?
Not much, just hanging out.
I missed your other alter ego, CT1016 of Bravo Squad. So that is, if you're not familiar with the inside jokes of that, inside Fit Nerd Academy, we give people trooper numbers. His trooper number is 1016. He earned a call sign because the community members are like, dude, you're kind of like a Lionheart, dude. And so that's where all this background comes from. But why we've got you here is because you have been on the path for over a year now. And last time we talked, it was 3 months and you
hmm
lost 30 pounds. You felt great. But what I want to hear from you is your story on how you kept going and get kind of the insights and perspectives and what enabled you to stick with it and keep going through the hardest times and what some of the coolest changes you've noticed that maybe you didn't expect were. Because I think a lot of people lose the weight and they're like, oh, okay, cool. 8 week challenge, I'm good, I'm done. But there's more to it. You've been able
hmm
to go further on that journey. And so thanks for taking the time. And maybe we can start by rewinding the clock back 13 months. What was going on in your life and what inspired you to change?
So, 13 months ago, so mid-August, early September, we had a lot of stuff going on. My wife had just lost her dad at the time, and so there was a lot of stress, a lot of legal junk we had to deal with like death certificates and all that stuff, and it was just like it was exhausting, and it was more exhausting than I think it needed to be, and a lot of it was because none of us were in great health. We were just eating, staying in hotels back and forth in New Mexico, and just eating garbage, and just it was terrible. And I think once we got it all settled towards the end of August and everything was taken care of, it was like, okay, now I have the time and the mentality to really start fixing life. And I had been following you for 6 months maybe at that time, I think, and big Star Wars nerd, so I liked watching all the stuff you had going on and the videos and the training in a helmet, which was wild to me. And and then my wife got me a helmet for Christmas, so I was like, I'm gonna do that too every once in a while. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was just there was a lot going on, and I decided I needed to do something different. And I had been burned by trainers before, but just like your whole style and everything you had going on, it was just like, okay, like this is something I can get in on, and that was it. I decided to do it, and I started. September 6th was when you and I had that call, and then it was the next day I started. It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and just went at it.
Yeah.
So
And so to that point, I can imagine eating, junk food, dealing with all that stress of, the passing of a loved one, kind of just had you feeling maybe lethargic. So
hmm
what were some of the things you were like, man, I really want to change this? Like specifically, was it energy? Was it confidence? Was it you weren't able to chase people around, kids, people, but you get what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, lethargic for sure. Being constantly tired. I you know have a hard time sleeping because I couldn't breathe very well. And it was like I didn't have sleep apnea, but it was still just uncomfortable, and not being able to lay in certain positions that were comfortable, and my wife having to wake me up because I'm snoring, that kind of stuff. So that was horrible. And then just like physically not having the energy and being just loading 600 to 800 milligrams of caffeine a day, which is wild, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just not having patience and just not being able to breathe walking up a flight of stairs. So yeah, it was all pretty rough at that point, and I needed to change it.
When you say not having patience, was that like easily irritable or that was you didn't
Yeah,
have patience? Okay.
yeah, and that's more of a personal thing, not so much maybe probably fitness, but just like my daughter wanting to go outside or go to the park, and I'm just like, I want to do it, and just not wanting to do things and just getting short tempered with kind of things, and I'm ahead of myself. But that's something I think I've gotten a lot better with, is being able to say, yeah, let's go do it.
Yeah. Well, I would, from my perspective, actually say irritability would be connected to the ability to handle stress. And
hmm
health makes it easier for you to do that, right?
Yeah.
If you're well slept, you're less irritable, right?
Hmm.
You're well fed and you got energy from a food standpoint, you're going to be much more likely to be, oh yeah, let's go for a walk, as opposed to, oh, food coma on the couch.
Yep.
And obviously exercise creates energy when you're exercising. You're like, yeah, cool. Like I'll go take the trash out versus
Yeah.
harder when you're not. So I think, you kind of stole your own thunder there, but that's a huge change to be able to be like, yeah, I respond to life differently because of
Hmm.
changes that you've made. So that's awesome. As you got started, right? We had that initial conversation of the things that were working for you, but what would you say was the hardest part where like you'd started on the journey, but maybe you were like, I just don't want to keep going? Because I heard
Yeah.
this the other day, and someone basically said, and I love this, the hardest part of a fitness journey isn't deciding to start, it's deciding to keep going.
Yeah.
What were those moments like for you, and what ultimately helped you get over that hump of, okay, I don't want to keep doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway?
Yeah, I definitely have had the issue in the past of like, man, I'm doing great for 3 weeks. Look, I've lost 3 pounds. Like, I'm doing real good. I actually went to the gym this week, and then I just go, well, it's not really working, so I don't want to do it anymore. It's there's no point kind of thing. Which I had at the end of 2021, early 22. It was like kind of like that. Like I got on a health fitness journey, and it was like, and then it just gave up because it just wasn't working fast enough or whatever. So I think part of the reason is because of the investment in the whole thing in the program and stuff was like, okay, I have to keep going. I have to make that investment. But also like once I saw the changes happening, it was like, okay, I have to keep going. I have to see where this ends, like to see where this path goes. So
Yeah. So it's almost like you became curious because you
mhm.
saw what was possible and you're like, wait, I didn't think I could get to, let's say, 40 pounds down,
Yeah.
50 around the corner. And then all of a sudden you're like walking down this path and you're like, wait, what's around that bend? What's around that?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that
Like
kind of what
30,
it's like?
30 pounds was wild at like just by itself. Like being under 300 pounds for the first time in 6, 7 years, whatever it was, and because I got horribly sick in 2014 and lost a ton of weight. And then once I got better, I was like, okay, cool. Like I lost a bunch of weight. Oh, look, cupcakes, cheeseburgers, and oh, I can eat again. Let's go ahead and I just gained it all back. And this time it was more like I did the work myself instead of being forced to lose weight. I did the work myself, and it was like, okay, like I like this. I can keep going, and I hit 30 pounds, and I'm like, let's go. Like let's do another 20. Let's do another 50, whatever. And yeah, it was like it was a nice snowball, but it also I think kind of became like I was addicted to seeing the change.
Yeah. And I want you to spend a little time on the work specifically,
Mhm.
because people will look from the outside and they'll think restrictive diet or you worked out 2 hours a day. What were the things that were honestly just like simple or monotonous or boring
Mhm.
that worked for you?
Yeah, so the crazy thing is seeing how much work it didn't take in a way because like it's not all about I have to have this crazy restrictive diet and I have to be in the gym for 2 hours a day, which like I think the program for the most part it was less than an hour 4 or 5 times a week. So it wasn't like it's not been crazy. Like the new scout program you got me on is wild, which is tons of fun. But but the previous one, it was like, oh, I got to go for 45 minutes, and 10 minutes of that is warming up or whatever. So, um, but it was finding little changes, little things here and there. Like I love breakfast food. That's my favorite. You've seen my calorie counting. Like it's breakfast is breakfast every day, pretty much. And it's like, oh, French toast, bread is a lot of calories. But then you find stuff like the keto bread where it's only 35 calories a slice. I can still have four of those and it's got a bunch of protein.
Hmm.
So like, and then eggs, protein. It's like I use fat-free, um, fat-free Fairlife milk. It's got protein in it. Like, so it's like I get this whole big loaded breakfast of protein where it's 700 calories, but it's 1,000 gram or sorry, 100 grams of protein for a whole breakfast. and then boom, I'm satiated for most of the rest of the day, and then my dinner I can spend another 700 calories on and have a snack, and so it was really about just finding those little things to replace my normal foods that were lower in calorie and higher in protein. So
Yeah, I love that because it's not all of a sudden eating like a completely different
hmm
culture's cuisine. You're
yeah,
having the same foods, you've just changed out the components,
yeah,
right? Like having like a big truck, and you're like, wait, we're just going to change the chassis. We don't have to
yeah,
change, the floor. We don't have to change, or maybe that is the floor, but it's like you're still keeping a lot of the same framework, but you're just changing little pieces to make like you get to have French toast every day and lose
yeah.
75, 80 pounds. Where you at now?
80. Yep.
Okay, like that's incredible. And
Yeah.
most people think carbs are bad, can't have French toast. I have to, do X, Y, and Z. And to your point too, like you've been working out a mix, I think, of the gym at home, and now you're
Mhm.
training for a 5K, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit. What have been some of the most like unexpected results that you've seen?
So the unexpected results. The first one is I have a belt, and the way it's built is the one end that connects into the buckle has lines on it, and if you need, you just cut off lines to fit your body. So when I first bought it, I cut off maybe one line, which was 1 inch, and I think at that point I was a 48 in pant size. So I cut off like one line, and that put me at 47, something like that. I've cut 8 inches off of this belt, and so I'm getting to the point now where I'm going to have to buy a new belt soon. So
Yeah.
like, which is crazy. It's my everyday, the one I wear every day, comfortable, and so that was unexpected. But the fact that like I even in my healthiest days, younger, I still never ran more than a mile. Like I'd run a mile in school in high school just to get it over with and be done with the PE thing. And I'm at the point now where I can actually run 2 miles without stopping at a pretty decent pace. And now I'm pushing towards 3 miles of doing the same thing and having a 5K at the end of November. So that's crazy. It's crazy to me.
Yeah. And I
So,
love you made that post in the community where you're like, a year ago, I was worried about my health. Now I'm out here running 2 miles. And,
yep.
I think what's exciting is if we use a little bit of algebra, and I always like the reference of like x over 2 is 4,
hmm
8. So it's like, I wonder what x is. You probably got more than a 5K in you if you keep down this path, right? Like what's around the
hmm
corner once you finish the 5K? Not to get ahead of you.
Yeah.
But I think that's an exciting journey that you're on now because now it's like you're doing a completely different type of training almost in a way
hmm
than you were a year ago. Like, did you start with any of the stuff on the channel where it would have been like the cadet stuff, or did you do it initially?
No, I pretty much just dove right into the program as you had it set for me. So I watched like a lot of your you not YouTube, but the Instagram stuff, but I didn't start working out until you programmed it for me. So like I didn't really get it, but I have done obviously the videos since then. So
Right. Okay. So then outside of what you're like you excited about, what you've, accomplished, what would you say over the last year is like the thing that you're most proud of?
um I don't know, that's tough. Like that doing 2 miles, I think is like I can't explain it because like obviously like in the video you were talking about like everyone's body is different and like it doesn't matter what your neighbor does because it's probably not going to work for you or vice versa. But it's like the fact that me, Travis, ran 2 miles without stopping is completely like I would have never like even my best friend who used to encourage me in my health journey and stuff like that was blown away. Like it was a fight to get a mile when we were younger, and then hearing me run two is wild.
And
So like
how old are you now?
I'm 34.
Okay, so was that 16, 18 years since you were fighting for a mile?
So I was a police explorer when I was in my late teens,
Okay.
and so it was like 15 years ago. I was like 19 the last time I actually tried to run a mile seriously, other
Okay.
than this year.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So yeah, you're basically turning the clock back on your cardiovascular fitness,
yeah,
obviously down 80 pounds to what you've mentioned. I remember you hitting a chin up as well, right?
yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because now I can just do it. So it's like it's crazy, like 3 months ago, I did my first chin up, and then I stopped doing it for a little while, and then last week I was at the gym and I was like, oh, this I don't know if you're supposed to do it or not, but the squat rack has a bar. So while I was in the middle, like in my rest period doing my squats, like I just kind of jumped up, pulled it, and did it. It was like, so yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So last time we talked, a lot of your messaging for like advice for someone else was just start your journey. And so
Hmm.
I'd be curious what your advice for someone who's on their journey and they're kind of in that desolate wasteland. And what I mean by that is they're leaving their old life
Hmm.
in that community and they're, transversing the Dune Sea, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
There's another village or town that they're headed to, but it seems like they're alone on this journey and they want to turn back. What would you say to that person that is wanting to quit, wanting to give up, and can't see what is available on the horizon? And maybe they have a little bit of results, but they're
Hmm.
uncertain about keeping going.
Yeah. I think I know what you get, and I think around the 50 pound mark, I kind of felt like, you know what, I've done a lot. Like I probably would be fine where I'm at right now, and it's like obviously I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to give up and go back and just start doing the regular breakfast French toast for 2,000 calories or whatever, But it was like it's kind of at the point where it was like 50 pounds is a lot. Like this is a good spot to be. And then I look towards like what could I be doing at 80 pounds, at 100 pounds? Like at 265, which is around the 50 pound mark for me. I was supposed to go skydiving. I haven't done that yet. I'm still now it's the mental game that I'm trying to get over instead of the physical.
Yeah.
Uh, but like, what could I be doing if I was 240 or like in the 230s where I'm at now? And it's like, what could I be doing at 220? What could I be doing at 200? So it's really more of the, like you said, the curiosity of looking towards like, what could I be doing if I don't give up right now?
Mm.
You know,
And I think that's
so.
a really good frame because one of the ways I like to think about progressing on your health journey or really just any journey in general is we put a cap on like what is possible or what we're
Mm-hmm.
used to. But
Yeah.
a good example of this is let's say you stay at a Best Western and you stay in the typical room, and then they're like, Travis, we want to upgrade you to the Best Western penthouse. This is where the CEO stays.
Mm-hmm.
You get exposed to like, oh wow,
Yeah.
well, this is what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I find that as kind of like a good metaphor for fitness because once you see, oh wow, I feel really good here. I think most people can't envision one, how bad they feel. They're so used to it, but two, they
Mm-hmm.
can't envision how good they could feel. So that's really cool that that's your
Yeah.
perspective of, oh man, we've talked about this now a bunch of times, but what's around the river bend? What's around this tree? What's around this rock? And just being curious about that on your journey.
Could you imagine being offered that Best Western penthouse and going, no, I think I'm good where I'm at, you know?
Oh, that's such a good point. Such a good question because so many people are like, you know what? I don't want to do it. I want to go back to,
Yeah. Why
yeah,
in the world would I want to be 200 pounds when I'm good at 240? Like, or 230 or 220 or whatever. It's like, why would I want to be there? It's like,
yeah.
you
I'll
know,
pay for the drinks in the tiny little food bar and
yeah,
the $4 waters. I want to pay for that.
yeah. The $4 waters in the $6 shot glass. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
One last question. You've obviously dove right into like the community elements, the alter ego, the nerdy elements. What would you say to someone who's maybe skeptical about that, or how
Mhm.
has that helped you? Whereas I know you've tried other things in the past, and I'm not here to say like this is better than others because someone who hates Star Wars would be like, this doesn't make sense. But like, how has
Yeah.
it helped you specifically in that it met you maybe where you were at?
Like, I'll say this. I am never Probably never. I don't know. Now at this point, I saying never is kind of goofy to me, but I don't know that I would never be the typical gym bro where I'm like, you know, going to Gold's Gym and deadlifting 600 pounds kind of thing. I don't think I would ever be that, but I've never been the typical gym bro where it's like my whole life is about the gym and stuff like that. So getting in with people like that are all just all about that. They eat, sleep, gym, eat, sleep, uh, you know, meat and protein and da 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 is like I've never been that kind of person, but like getting into the Star Wars community in the Fit Nerd Academy brought me into a group of people that like if we all stepped out of the gym, we'd have something in common and something cool and something fun to do together. So like when I go down to LA to go work out with you guys, like we were there to work out, but also like we put some helmets on and took some pictures and we were cool, you know. So that was a
I
I
think we
think
spent
it's really
more,
cool that we get to do both those.
yeah, I think we spent more time talking about Legends books,
Yep.
yeah, and like what if theories,
Hmm.
you could talk about for hours. And so I think that is a good point because I'll say this from my side of things, like I've been in the CrossFit gym bro gym,
Hmm.
and I started this because I thought this was more fun.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of being able to be both,
Yeah.
and without turning this too much into Star Wars lore, like being able to, you know, be the balance of the light and the dark side, or being able to be multi-dimensional as opposed to just dogmatic and not have
Yeah.
the ability to be confident in all aspects of what you enjoy doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not saying like the whole I don't really know how to say it, but like the whole gym bro thing is like I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I that's not me, you know. So
Yeah,
it's
totally.
like if I were to go to the gym to try to find a bunch of guys to hang out with, it like it probably wouldn't work normally. But like having the Star Wars thing in common really pulls the whole galaxy together, you know. So
Dude, well said. Way to land that one. That was well done. Awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much for your time, your insight, and ultimately the work that you've put in because you've done such an amazing job of just following the path, raising your hand when you have questions. And I can't wait to see what next year has in store for you. We'll have to get you some uh, running shorts since you're older now
yep.
that ride up nice and high. And who knows, maybe you'll be Mr. Marathon Man in a couple of years. Fingers crossed.
Thank you for putting on a helmet one day and starting this whole thing down the road and getting us all into it.
Yeah, for the Republic, right?
Yeah, for the Republic.